Hi, I am back.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This is Nyla Sostre with Nyla Survives Broadway. Thank you so much for your patience. I know it's been a minute, but I want to get back to what I made this page for and what I made this series for, which is showing you my experience, but more specifically, helping out anybody that was in the same predicament as me and just thrust into this Broadway world, or you're thinking about putting yourself on Broadway in the future. You're working towards this as a dream. You're already on Broadway and you just enjoy me telling my story. All that to say, thank you so much for being here. This is Nyla Survives Broadway. It's just Nyla. If this is your first time seeing me, welcome. Here, we're gonna be talking about my life on Broadway and how I'm surviving it. I'm gonna give you my tips and tricks, and hopefully you can use them for your life in whatever capacity they may be helpful to you. Take what you need and leave the rest. I am born and raised in New York City. I am currently on Broadway, and I am just telling you my experience growing up, not really knowing that this was gonna be my future, and then being thrust into this position seemingly like overnight. It did take a year. I'm gonna do that story in another video, but it did take a full year from my first audition to Broadway to actually booking my first Broadway show. But it was a principal role in an amazing Broadway show. It was a touring company, their second touring company for Hamilton the musical, and I played Peggy Schuyler as well as Mariah Reynolds. So that was incredible. But the things I learned along the way are just things that I really wish somebody would have told me, okay? So let's clean my makeup brushes for work, because I'm on, and I just want to make sure I'm not putting the same makeup on my face over and over again. So let's clean my makeup brushes for work and talk about how I go about learning a new show. So there are 3 key elements to me for learning a new show. I like to be off book first, memorize the lines word for word, 0 emotion, just memorization, just verbatim absorbing what the script is, exactly what the writer wrote, breaking that down and making it second nature, making my muscle memory kick in. Because the more that you say these lines, the easier it'll be for you to recall them in the moment, so you can add other elements like feeling and emotion and intention and inflection. You can add all of those elements later, but when you first got a script, you first got some sides for a self-tape, memorize those words, exactly what's on that page. I'm sure there's some people that'll tell you it doesn't matter. I'm a person who thinks if you are changing words that someone wrote, maybe in TV and film it might be a different energy, but in stage performances and musicals specifically, I feel like that's like going up to somebody and changing their hair based on what you think they should look like. Like, oh no, but I like your hair better this way. It's rude. They wrote what they wrote for a reason, and it's your job as an actor to memorize what they wrote, not make up your own rules. That's why I like to get off book first. I like to memorize first, because sometimes when you add emotions too early in the process, you freestyle the words that you're saying based on the emotions that you have created for yourself, the emotions that you have tapped into. So I like to save the emotions for a later part and first just get off book. How do I get off book? I say those lines everywhere. I talk to myself outside. You'll see me with my headphones on being like, and you'll probably think I'm on the phone, or you'll probably think I'm having a Bluetooth conversation or something, or you might think I'm crazy, but I say those lines over and over again. I'm gonna say those lines. I'm gonna say them while I'm washing dishes. I'm gonna say them while I'm riding a bike. I'm gonna say them while I'm on the train. I'm gonna say them while I'm taking a shower. I'm gonna say them while I prepare food, while I do my makeup, while I brush my hair, I'm gonna practice the lines going back and forth between the characters that are in the scene with me. No matter how many characters that is, I'm gonna find like my man or a friend to just go over those lines with me and make sure that I am prepared to say what I'm supposed to say in response to the lines that are given to me. Now, it's like you want to memorize all these lines and then you kind of want to throw it away, but we'll talk about that later. First and foremost, you want to know exactly what you're saying so you don't have to look for it, okay? That means saying it over and over again. So once you have that down though, it's like once you learn the rules, you can break them. And once you have that part down, then you can take and start making your character come to life in a more specific way. And to do this, I like to write down characteristics. I like to figure out what I know about this character from the text that I've been given. That means read the entire show. That means read the script or watch it on YouTube. If you're not inclined to read it, watch a version of the show that you're in if that is a possibility. Watch it. If it's a new workshop or something like that, you're going to have to read the scripts to know who you are and what part you play in that world. So I like to read, and then I'll write down what parts I know about the character based on what I've read. And then I'll make up other stuff, like what's her favorite color? What is the high school that she went to? What was her college boyfriend's name? What, just silly little things that give me a personal touch, that help me identify exactly who I am and believe it, because I have all this information to back up my choices and back up the things that she said. Now I'm going to make these things based on the things that everybody around her said. So it's going to be very specific to me, but it's also going to be specific to the script. That's why you have to be off book, but also read that script. If that makes sense. Because some of it you can make up, but majority of it is there. And you have to see what's there and be interested in it so that you can give yourself a chance to do an authentic job with the show. With that being said, I like to call this process mining for gems, because once you have that characteristics list, and once you have asked yourself why you've said what you've said in the show, what are your relationships to the other characters, how do you feel about them, you personalize her story, then you can go and say those lines in a million different ways. Say it with her angry, say it with her sad, say it with her being betrayed, say it with her just having had ice cream, say it with her just having gotten her toes and her nails done. Give her a realistic point of view, because there isn't a moment that isn't tied to the moment before. So even in a scene, when the lights come up and you're dropped into the middle of a moment, there was always a moment before, and you have to be very in touch with whatever your moment before was. What did she do that day? And if it's in the script, I need you to know that. I need you to specifically use that as an anchor, use it as a grounding point to build your show. Y'all, I'm here at the Neil Simon, and there is always some type of ambulance or fire truck or something going on. So strange. Try the lines in different ways. This is something that you will work with a director or an associate director, or you'll work with stage management, and sometimes to create this moment, like why you're saying what you're saying and what they would like for you to work on to make what you're saying a little bit more believable, or make it more strong, powerful of a moment, make it more grounded, make it more peaceful. Whatever fine tuning they need to do, they'll do, but it is your job to do your homework. You have to come with something. You can just come off book and let them mold you into whatever, but I feel like that's harder to recreate because you haven't put yourself into it. I think it's very important for you to figure out what part of you is in this character, because you can't really play, at least in my opinion, I don't think you can play a character that doesn't live inside you in some way. You have to open that part of yourself up. That being said, not me taking myself out. The next part is staging. And for this part, somebody's definitely gonna teach you exactly where you're supposed to be standing, what you're supposed to be doing, standing in between, who you're gonna be dancing next to, who you're gonna be talking to, who you're gonna be standing parallel to, where you have to walk around, what you have to walk towards, where you exit, where you enter, what part of the stage depth-wise you're standing on. So for this part, I like to have a handy dandy notebook, okay? Shout out to Blue. Come on, childhood memories. But I like to have a notebook, and I like to have my phone, because there are spikes on the stage. Whenever they move like a panel or a box or some stairs or prop that goes on the stage, there are spikes. They take little pieces of tape and they make like the corner of where you're supposed to put it. So in MJ, for instance, there are some beds that come on for the hotel scene with the family, and there are these little, just half of a square, so that you know exactly where the front of the bed goes, where the back of the bed goes. I use those for myself as well, so that I can know exactly where I'm supposed to be standing when I'm saying something. So I'll write down the line that I'm saying. If they tell me that I make a movement during this line, I will look at what spikes I need to make it from and what spikes I need to make it to within this line. So I know exactly where I'm walking, and depth-wise, I understand in space on the stage where I'm supposed to be. This is your homework. you need to take into consideration the fact that there is a whole world going on around you. There are other people dancing, there are other people moving around, there are other people moving elements like panels and boxes and things that might be unsafe. There are things coming down from the ceiling of the theaters to drop onto the stage and create a different scene. You cannot be standing under them or you will be crushed like the Wizard of Oz. So you need to know where you're supposed to stand and where it's clear. When you're learning a show, they usually have you track a show. This is where you stand in the wings and you watch the character that you're going to be going on for. If this is already a show that is put up and you're joining the show, this is what they'll have you do. They'll have you watch the person playing the character and watch what they do from each wing, and they'll show you where they exit and what traffic they have to deal with, like the people they run into when they're going under the stage or over the stage or backstage. They'll tell you exactly what's gonna go on they'll show you exactly what's gonna go on when you go on backstage, because there's where you're supposed to be on stage, but there's also where you're supposed to be backstage, and when you're supposed to make certain crosses so that you can enter on the other side of the stage without crossing the stage. Very important stuff. And I know it sounds like a lot of information, but at some point it just clicks and it all becomes second nature. But it's like, this is the homework. The way you can do 2 times 2 is 4. And when you first heard 2 times 2 was 4, you were like, I do not understand. And I do not understand how to recall that because I am a baby child. So consider yourself a baby child when you're learning these new shows. Give yourself the room to create consistency. And I'm a very true believer in that the way that you learn a show is the way that you are going to uphold the show. So I like to have a lot of integrity, a lot of specificity, and a lot of clarity in my process. So yeah, I think consistency keeps everyone safe. And as a swing or a standby, I think it's especially important that you're paying attention to all of these elements of where you're supposed to be on stage and backstage so that you can create as consistent and as seamless of a show. You want people to just know that you know where you're supposed to be, because it's hard to do a show consistently 8 shows a week, have someone else play a character and they don't know where they're supposed to be, and you still have to maintain your show around. Now, yes, there's grace and there's space. People are learning, but like, you've been in a show for a few times on stage in a few months, you should have a good handle on where you're supposed to be. You should have made enough mistakes to figure out in space and time where you're supposed to be. And you should have, with the help of the directors and the associate directors and the choreographers and the dance team and the stage managers, you should have a very solid show, in my opinion. That's just me. This has been really super cute and super fun and super short, okay? But I hope this helps you. If this is something that helped you out, and this is something that you think might help somebody else out, please feel free to like and share and post and repost my videos. Add my link to your Facebook, add my link to your Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. I appreciate community. I appreciate the support, and I appreciate you helping me keep this channel going. I am gonna be more consistent, and in that, I want to say, in that same vein of consistency, I want to be honest and say that 1 episode a week is a little bit too much for me considering my Broadway schedule. I am actively surviving Broadway, y'all, so it's a little hard to give you 1 episode a week. But what I can ultimately commit to is 1 episode a month, and I hope that's good. I hope that y'all work with me. I'm working on the next series as well, writing it out, plotting the storyboard for that. And thank you. This is my first time going on an adventure like this with YouTube, as a storyteller, as an influencer, as a blogger, as an actress, as a performer, and as a human being. So thank you for grace and space. Until next time.